we've got an hour to go until Keatsman uncanceled. So do you want to see marijuana reclassified? That is something the President of the United States teased yesterday. Now, we know here in the Kansas City area, Kansas, nothing, right? No medical, no nothing when it comes to marijuana. You cross the state line and woo, oh boy, it's a good time. You go out to Arrowhead now, you don't just smell barbecue, you get that fine scent of marijuana, which I very much say tongue-in-cheek. I'm not a fan. But it passed by the voters, obviously, and now it's in the law. So, and
remember in the 80s when it was just video stores on every corner? You know, Hollywood at Home and whatever.
Well, I actually don't remember the 80s, John. I was when the 80s ended.
I guess that proliferated into the 90s some. I don't remember if you remember that when you were younger, I should say.
No, it's...
Did jump back far on you.
Oh, man. It's like when Steve Moore, our good friend and economist, was like, Pete, you remember the Nixon years? I'm like, no, I was minus 10 years old then. So
no, and our old news guy barely remembers the Nixon years.
Oh, man. So I admit, it's one of those topics that I go back and forth on. And I know that when you host a show, you're supposed to just kind of take a side and, you know, make an opinion off of that side and be very much black and white about a lot of things. And trust me, I am on most things. This one I go back and forth on a lot. The president spoke about this yesterday when he was at the White House, and here is part of what he had to say yesterday on the possible reclassification of marijuana.
Sir, on the issue of drugs, is it accurate that you are considering an executive order to reclassify marijuana under the control?
We are considering that, yeah.
Okay. Are you planning?
Because a lot of people want to see it, the reclassification, because it leads to tremendous amounts of research that can't be done unless you reclassify. So we are looking at that very strongly.
So it's an interesting pitch there. He said that he is looking at reclassifying marijuana from a Schedule I drug to a Schedule III drug. It's a shift that would formally recognize cannabis as having accepted medical use under federal law for the first time. The move would mark one of the most significant changes to U.S. marijuana policy in decades, potentially affecting taxation, medical access, banking, and federal enforcement. CBS News adds here, while some industry leaders think it could bring long-awaited relief, others caution that rescheduling could expose existing cannabis businesses to new federal risks without providing full legalization. So what does Schedule III mean for marijuana? Schedule III substances are considered to have medical value and a lower potential for abuse than Schedule I or Schedule II drugs. Medications in this category include ketamine, Tylenol, and anabolic steroids. Reclassification would not legalize marijuana federally, but it would remove cannabis from the most restrictive category under the Controlled Substances Act, a change with far-reaching implications. So Joe Biden was considering doing this at the end of his term. He did not do it. He just kind of ran out of time, and probably the auto pen wasn't working or something. I don't know. Come on, man. I don't know what else to say. But the prior administration was considering this. Trump now says he's considering doing this. And while I understand that there could be banking benefits, because right now, obviously, it's not legal federally. So for people who are in the marijuana industry, like in Missouri, they can't do traditional banking with their business. That may open up potential opportunities that obviously they don't currently have. And while I'm accepting of medical marijuana far more than recreational marijuana, I still don't know if I love the idea of just basically making marijuana a bigger part of our social fabric. That's something I admit that I struggle with. 913-408-7957. How you join us on KCMO. Katie's in Topeka. Katie, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. So I was just calling, and I was actually a guest on the Keatsman show about a month ago talking with Kansas Senator Mike Thompson about the issue of marijuana legalization, and I've been paying pretty close attention to the conversations about reclassification, and I just wanted to call in to clarify one thing, because I don't think that, you know, the president mentioned that the biggest benefit of rescheduling or reclassifying marijuana would be that it would open up research potential. And that's just, I think, a talking point that the proponents are using to push this. But the biggest practical implication of that scheduling change is that it opens up some tax relief for cannabis businesses to increase their profit margins. So, this is really a tax issue. It's not a research one. The FDA has not approved cannabis for any medical condition. So changing it in the schedule, it's not going to be available to people. It would still require FDA processes and approvals and making it available by prescription.
So then the rescheduling, and this was put on the text line, and I think it's a fair point. Pete, no matter what your views are on marijuana, it should not be in the same class as heroin and cocaine. This person says here was only scheduled that way to begin with because big alcohol was involved. Now, I don't know whether or not that's true, but I'd be curious to get your opinion on that because I think that's fair to say, hey, marijuana, whether I like it or not, is not heroin. It's not cocaine. So should it just be rescheduled out of principle alone, regardless of what the tax benefits may be for these companies?
I don't think so. And here's why. So drugs in Schedule 1 are drugs that have no accepted medical use and have a high potential for abuse. So again, we look at at marijuana as a plant, and marijuana as a whole plant has no accepted medical use. It is true that there are some of the over 100 cannabinoids that exist in the plant that have demonstrated some medical value. So we need to be having conversations about, continuing to have the FDA be the gatekeeper of medicine in this country and not making medicine by policy. And I don't think it's appropriate to move marijuana out of Schedule 1 because as a plant, again, it has a high potential for abuse and addiction and no accepted medical value. The other thing I think is interesting is that, was it just yesterday the president classified fentanyl, which is a Schedule 3 drug, as a weapon of mass destruction?
Yes.
So here we're having conversations about addressing a fentanyl opioid crisis in our country. And at the same time, we're having conversations about creating better access to a Schedule 1 controlled substance. The irony in it kind of blows my mind.
Well, I did see that, and it wasn't clear to me what the implications are of classifying fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. Do you have a read on that?
No, I haven't had time to dig into that. But, I think on the issue of rescheduling, the legal status of medicine and the placement of substances in the Controlled Substance Act federally should be objectively driven by science and backed by research and data. It should not be a decision that, is in a political process where our leaders succumb to pressure from corporate profiteers. And I think that that's exactly what's happening with President Trump right now.
All right, Katie in Topeka. I remember you coming on here when Mike Thompson was filling in for Keatsman. So thanks so much for calling in on this one. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Pete. Have a good day.
You as well. Good stuff there. Jeff in Kansas City. What's up, Jeff?
I'll tell you what your young lady that just said, she's 100% right. I've been a cop for almost 40 years. I'm telling you, rescheduling marijuana out of what it is to something else is crazy. I don't care who wants to do it. That should be left alone. It needs to be as it is.
Why?
She is 100% right.
Why?
Amen.
Why?
Why? Because bending to the political pressures of the business community and all that is crazy. I'll tell you what, there's people that are smoking dope driving down the road here in Missouri all the time since they've legalized it. And I'm telling you what, you worry about drunk drivers. There's impaired drivers all the time driving down the roads in the state of Missouri every day.
Well,
I
don't deny that. But let me ask you this, Jeff, just to play devil's advocate here in part. That has to do with state law. That has nothing to do with Trump reclassifying the drug. So your beef sounds like it's more with obviously Missouri than it is with reclassifying the drug, which is what President Trump's considering.
They're trying to change it so they can get the banking laws changed, so they can get that money into the banking system. And reclassifying it to do that for the banking system is crazy. They need to leave it alone, and they need to leave it as it is. Who cares about the banking stuff? Let them figure that out. They're business people. let them figure that out on the side. But as far as the reclassification is concerned, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you there, Jeff. I appreciate it with the cop experience as well. 913-408-7957. Text line, Pete, no community has ever been improved by marijuana legalization. It's a terrible move to make it more prevalent. I don't know if rescheduling does that, though. Like, I don't want to get away from what the conversation has been about, and that is rescheduling it from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3 drug. And that seems like it is more about, as Jeff noted and Katie noted, the business side of this than anything to do with access, because that's still done on a state level, right? I mean, we know Kansas is one way and Missouri's on the total other side of this right now. So very different laws on either side of our state line right now. Now, inherently, I have had this conversation internally. I'll have a few drinks. I have no problem having a few drinks. The difference between alcohol and marijuana is what exactly? Marijuana is maybe more of a gateway drug. Is it, though? I'm not an expert in it, but that's where I struggle. If I say, hey, you know what? I'll have a drink at dinner. I don't mind having a couple of drinks at home. And then I'm going to say, no way on the marijuana. I just don't want to be a hypocrite, and I'm afraid I sound like a hypocrite when I talk like that. So that's where this issue is one that I don't have an answer on. And I just don't have a strong opinion on, because depending on what day it is, I feel differently about it. And I'm just being honest with you on that. It's one of the few issues where I feel like I struggle coming to my own conclusion with it. But rescheduling it is a very different conversation, and that's what the president is considering through executive order.